students, under morphology of leaf, we have completed parts of the leaf, venation of leaves and phyllotaxy. In this lecture, we are going to look at modifications of leaves. That is, how leaves are modified to perform functions other than photosynthesis. This syllabus is not included in NEET. It is a part of AIIMS and JIPMER syllabus. So let us look at the first modification, leaf tendrils. Now you have learned in plants like cucumbers and grapevines also there is presence of tendrils, isn't it? But those tendrils are a modification of the axillary bud, which is a part of the stem, okay, shoot modification. In other plants such as pea, it is the leaves, more specifically the terminal leaflets of the leaves, which become tendrilar and coil around support. In another plant called as glory lily, scientific name gloriosa, the terminal tip of the leaf, which is called the leaf apex, that becomes tendrilar and help to coil around a support. Leaf tendrils for climbing and support. Example, pea, leaflets. In another plant called as bignonia, leaves become hooked like and help the plant in climbing. They appear like cat's claws, and that's why this plant is also called as cat's claw. The leaflets become tendrils. Then gloriosa, also called as glory lily. In this, the leaf apex will become tendrilar in this case. In bignonia, the hook tendrils are going to look like these. In Lathyrus, whole leaf can become tendrilar. Let's move on to the next modification, leaf spines. In many desert plants such as cacti, you know what happens with the leaves, right? The leaves are reduced to spines, and it is the stem which becomes green and photosynthetic, known as the phylloclade. You had learnt it in aerial stem modifications, and takes over the function of photosynthesis. It takes up the function of the leaf. And what does the leaf do? The leaves are reduced to spines for the purpose of protection against grazing herbivores and for reducing transpiration. Leaf spines. Example, cacti like opuntia. This is opuntia. These are the leaves, leaf spines. This is for the purpose of protection and for reducing transpiration. Next modification, storage leaves, also called fleshy leaves. Because of storage, they become fleshy. Leaves may be modified to store food and water in them. To store food and water, for example, in onion and garlic, these structures that you see, these fleshy things, these are actually the leaves, and they are modified to store food. In other plants such as aloe vera and agave, they are known to store water. Number 4. This is an important example. This one is called as Phylode. This is seen in a plant called as the Australian acacia, which is a huge tree. An important example. In this plant, what happens, it has compound leaves, okay? There are leaflets. They are very small and they are very short-lived and they fall off. Who will do photosynthesis now in this condition? In this case, the petiole of the leaves, the petiole of these leaves become expanded. The petiole becomes large sized and it takes up the function of photosynthesis. This is actually the petiole which has become green and it takes up the function of photosynthesis. This type of a petiole that becomes green and photosynthetic, this is known as a phylode, which is different from phyloclade of aerial stem modification. In case of phyloclade, this was called the phyloclade. It is the aerial shoot modification. It is the shoot that has taken the function of photosynthesis. Over here, the petiole has taken up the function of photosynthesis, which is called the phylode. Leaves are small and short-lived. Next one. For trapping insects. Leaves may be modified for trapping insects, for example, in insectivorous plants. You know about insectivorous plants, don't you? Name some insectivorous plants that you know of. There is the Venus flytrap, then there is the pitcher plant, then there are others called as Sundew plant, then there is one more called Bladderwort. Okay, we will look at these 4 examples. Now, what is the deal with these insectivorous plants? What do? They trap insects. Why do they trap insects? Because they attain nitrogen from them. Okay, they will digest the insects and they will attain nitrogen from them. Why are they taking nitrogen from these insects? Because these plants grow in nitrogen deficient soils. Think about it. In such type of nitrogen deficient soils, no other plants will want to grow, but these can. they will not face any competition from the other plants. So they will live there very nicely and without any competition. They will be able to fulfill their nitrogen requirements from digesting insects. Every other plant also requires nitrogen, but they will take up their nitrogen from the soil. All the other plants will fulfill their nitrogen requirements from the soil, but these plants will fulfill their nitrogen requirement by digesting insects. So for trapping insects, they have developed certain apparatus in their plant bodies to trap insects. Okay, for example, in Venus flytrap, you know about that snap shut mechanism. In pitcher plant, there is a formation of a pitcher-like structure. So what are those structures made from? These structures for trapping insects in insectivorous plants are all made from leaves. Very important. The insect trapping apparatus in insectivorous plants are all made from leaves. For instance, in Venus flytrap, it is actually the two lobes of the lamina which are hinged in the center with sensory teeth along the margin, which help in trapping the insects, modified leaves. Then in pitcher plant also, the pitcher is actually made from modified lamina, and the lid which snaps shut once the insect goes down into the pitcher. The rim of the pitcher will be very slippery, and there will be digestive juices inside which will look like nectar to the insect. The lid will be kept open, the insect will come and sit on the rim, and it will be very slippery. It will slip and fall inside the digestive juices, and the lid will shut close. The lid is made from the apex of the leaf. So it's entirely a leaf modification. Similarly, in Sundew plant, there will be this modified leaves which will look like very flowery kind of structure with dew drops on it, which are actually very sticky kind of substances. The insect will be very much attracted to these dew drop looking substances and will come and will be trapped on these sticky substances, and then guess what will happen? It will be digested. Find out more about the Bladderwort plant. Find out about its working mechanism. Insectivorous plants grow in nitrogen deficient soils and fulfill their nitrogen requirement by trapping and digesting insects. They have leaves modified for trapping insects. For example, pitcher plant, scientific name is Nepenthes. So this will be the photosynthetic part, which will be the leaf base. This will be the petiole, and there will be this pitcher which will be formed from lamina of the leaf. This is the lid of the pitcher which will be formed from the apex of the leaf. This will be the petiole which will be tendrils, and this is the leaf base which will be photosynthetic. Then there is Venus flytrap, scientific name of which is Dionaea. Then there is the Sundew plant, scientific name of which is Drosera. Then there is Bladderwort, scientific name of which is Utricularia. We have to know the scientific names of these plants. This is an important topic, insectivorous plants. Next, colored bracts. Do you know what are bracts? Suppose this is a leaf. This is an axillary bud, always there in the axil of a leaf, you know that. This axillary bud can develop into a branch, it can form a thorn, it can form a tendril, or else it can form a flower. Consider it formed a flower. Now this leaf is no longer called as a leaf, now it has got a special name to it. Now it will be called as the bract of this flower. In some cases what happens is, the flowers are extremely small sized, as in case of bougainvillea. You've seen bougainvillea? It's nice pink colored plants. You see lots and lots of pink color attractive flowers. Are they really flowers that are pink colored? Let's have a look. If you look at the bougainvillea flower carefully, you will find that actually the flower is really small, white color, very small and inconspicuous in the center, but the bracts of these flowers have become nice and enlarged and colored. Why have they become colored? To attract the pollinators. Similarly, in another plant called as poinsettia, similar condition is seen in which the bracts become very nice, beautifully red colored to attract the pollinators, because the actual flowers are really small in size. In some plants, flowers are small sized, so the bract leaves become enlarged and colored to attract pollinators. Example, bougainvillea, very important example. Second example, poinsettia. Final modification of leaves for vegetative propagation / reproduction. Really? Leaves can also vegetatively propagate? So far we have seen mainly the stems that are modified into vegetative propagules for vegetative propagation, isn't it? We saw that in the last few lectures. When it comes to root, there are very few examples. For example, sweet potato, which is actually a root that can develop adventitious buds and help in vegetative propagation. Mainly it is the stems. When it comes to leaves, also there are very few examples. There are some leaves, for example, in a leaf called Bryophyllum. Have you seen this leaf? Yeah, have you kept them in between your pages of your books? Slowly they develop buds like this. Even if they fall onto the ground, they will develop these buds. These are called as the adventitious buds, and these leaves are very fleshy kind of leaves, okay, very thicker compared to the ordinary leaves because they have stored food in them. Okay, for whom? What is going to happen once they fall onto the ground? Naturally, they are going to develop these adventitious buds which will grow into new plantlets. They will be sustained from the stored food inside these leaves. This leaf is modified for vegetative propagation. Adventitious buds developed in margins of leaf and they grow into plantlets. Example, Bryophyllum. Do not confuse with bougainvillea. So these were the 7 modifications of leaves for functions other than photosynthesis. So with that we have completed with the leaf morphology. In the next lecture we will move on to inflorescence. In the name of Lord Mahadev, please subscribe